Hey everybody, welcome, welcome. I'm Tish Hicks. I'm the Master Sensei here at the VO Dojo in Burbank, California, and this is the VO Dojo 21 Questions. We are so excited to welcome 𝗏𝗃𝗃 to be here with us. He is an extraordinary I don't know. Would you say legendary? I don't know. Is an extraordinary voice talent, working in all sorts of realms of animation, video games, everything. And also the creator of QuickVox, which is an amazing organization. And so I'm sure we'll hear more about that. But JP, welcome, welcome. So glad to have you here.
Hey, so glad to be here, Tish. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, shall we get started with the questions?
Hit me.
Okay, that was one. Uh, what's your one-word check-in for today?
Stretched.
Stretched. Excellent. And even more, thank you.
Mhm.
Where are you from originally?
Originally from Dunmore, Pennsylvania, which is just outside of Scranton.
And where
Mhm.
do you live now?
Long Beach, California.
And how long have you lived? How long since outside of Scranton, and like how long
Sure.
have you been in
So,
LA?
uh, grew up in Scranton. When I went to college, I went to Catholic University in DC for 2 years. Then I transferred to USC in LA, and I've been there ever since. I've been out here ever since. And um, I've lived in Culver City, East LA, Thai Town, Glendale, and now I've been in Long Beach for I think 4 years.
Nice, 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 nice. What would we know your voice from? Or what wouldn't we know your voice from?
Um,
What would we know your voice from?
are you picking up on that siren? I just want to make sure that that's not an issue.
Can't hear a
Okay,
thing.
great, cool. Um, you would know me as Morph from X-Men '97.
Mhm.
I play Green Goblin in Spidey and His Amazing Friends, Dale Dimmadome in The Fairly Odd Parents: A New Wish. I have been 𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, the Boss Baby, bunch of different Marvel heroes and villains. I was Kozo Fuyutsuki in the Neon Genesis Evangelion Netflix dub. And I'm going to be 𝗥𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗃 and his evil brother 𝗏𝗂𝗃 in the new Smurfs movie in July.
Oh, so cool. Awesome. So a couple of things, a couple of things. How long have you been doing voiceover?
Uh, 19 years.
19 years. Good,
Mhm.
good, good. And who is your current team? And I'll let you define what that means to could be representation, but
Sure.
I open to interpretation. Yeah.
I am proudly repped by the gang over at SBV Talent.
Mhm.
I'm also repped by JE Talent in San Francisco. And I have a publicist because of the movie, which is 𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. Um,
Good, 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 good. And on the technical side, what's your setup?
I have a Studio Bricks booth.
Mhm.
I have a Neumann TLM 103 mic, which plugs into a Grace M101, which plugs
Mhm.
into a Sennheiser, no, Steinberg UR22 MK2,
Mhm.
or maybe I've got those backed up. Either way. And that plugs into a Mac Mini.
Awesome.
And my DAW
Great.
is Twisted Wave.
Awesome. Good. And
Mhm.
what mic did you start with? Like, what was your setup when you started?
Oh, what was my starting mic? Oh, an AR22. No, an AT22. Is that what I'm thinking?
Oh, AT 2020?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
AT2020.
well, okay.
Uh-huh.
Good,
Yeah.
good, good. Yeah, that was the very beginning. Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Hmm.
Mine was AT 4040. Yep. That's good. Um, so what is your real origin story? Like how did you get started?
So I grew up loving cartoons. Always wanted, always did voices. I was an only child who didn't have a ton of friends, so I made up a lot of characters. I did a lot of voices. And I grew up watching Looney Tunes, He-Man, Animaniacs, Tiny Toons, Batman the Animated Series, like all of that stuff, just and loved it. But I think there was a part of me that was very naively under the impression that thanks to Robin Williams in Aladdin, that you needed to be a big time celebrity before they let you do voiceover, because it just seemed like that can't be a real job. It has to be something super fun that they just gift you, once you've reached a certain level. So I really went to school in the hopes of becoming literally a famous movie actor. Like I was just like, that's how I'm going to get to where I want to get.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, by the time I got to USC, I had some professors, including Kelly Ward, who's not only a great musical theater director, but also a director of many animated programs, that you didn't need to be a celebrity to do animation. You could just train and get an agent and all that. So that's what I did. And um, I started taking VO classes out of college, 𝗔𝗍𝗵𝗀𝗃. My very first class was 𝗏𝗃𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗃,
Mm-hmm.
who used to teach an amazing 5-week course at Voice Tracks West, where she taught the first and the last, and then each in between week was somebody with a different medium expertise.
Mm-hmm.
So Keith Farley, 𝗔𝗍𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗃, and Bill Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then from there, I studied with Bob Bergen, who was basically my mentor. And through his recommendation, I was able to be repped at AVO Talent
Mm-hmm.
back in 2006. And yeah, I've just been plugging away ever since. And I think that first year I booked maybe one little thing. And then the next year it was maybe two little things. And then it just progressed until I think I've been doing this full time without a day job for 8 years. So it took about 10, 10 or 11 to really get the traction to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So 10, so 3 years before you went full time.
Um, yeah, so from like 2000, well, let me see, 2006 to I'd say 2015, so like 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
I had day jobs, and I was,
Oh, okay.
yeah. And it wasn't until about 2015, 16 that I was able to just leave it all and just do this full time.
Excellent. So 9 years in process and 8 years since you've been able to do this exclusively.
Hmm.
Yeah, good, good,
Hmm.
good to hear that. Good to hear that. Um, let's see. What, along that line, what was your big break, or was there a big break? Or I think sometimes, like when I think about my career, it's like, well, there was that little thing and then that, but did you consider, like, was there something that you consider your big break or?
Yeah, I mean, there were like you're saying, there were a series of smaller breaks.
Mhm.
My first animated gig was this this directed DVD gore porn video game prequel movie called Dante's Inferno, an animated epic. Um, and I was friendly with Court Lane, well, still am. But he was when he was working as a VP of animation at Marvel, and that's how I was able to get a couple small gigs in like Marvel mashups and Hulk and the Agents of Smash, which gave me the credits that I needed when they were auditioning for new Looney Tunes, aka 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏,
Hmm.
and Charlie Adler took a chance on me, and I got 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. So
Hmm.
I'd say 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 was the big break, but it doesn't come from nothing. It just it's all
Right,
the little stairs that get you to the
right.
to that first landing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's see. What else did you do in those 9 years that you were doing both,
For
working?
money.
Yeah. I think it's
um,
it's always fascinating what we do when we're on our journey, when we're on our way. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, when I first got out of college, I did grocery delivery for
Hmm.
about a year, but after that, I did I bounced back and forth between academia, like um, administrative academia. Like I was working in an admissions office for a
Okay.
few years. Then I was doing temp work at a variety of different companies. Then I went back to academia, worked in an alumni office for several years,
Hmm.
back to temp work, like just kind of bouncing between that. I was always meant for office work, like, when not doing this. So
Hmm.
yeah, it was all of that.
Good, good, good.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. Now, here's a question. What 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 would you say are the top three ingredients in your success?
Top three ingredients. Um, Patience.
Mhm.
I think that's a biggie. Camaraderie.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's so it's so key to build a community that we're able
Mhm.
to have. I think it's become harder in recent years because we all do this from home and online, but
I just got a like shiver of energy when you said that. Like just
yeah,
yep, that's what it's.
yeah, like just that community. I mean, I'm very much in the place where I am because of the friendships that I made of fellow voice actors, production, casting, like all of that. Like,
Mhm.
um, and risk taking, I think, is like daring to be weird in some of those auditions, or daring to go with your gut um and trusting yourself, trusting when your intuition when the sides are asking for what they're asking, or trusting when sometimes there feels like there's that opening for something unexpected and going with it.
Yeah, those are brilliant. So patience, camaraderie, and risk taking.
Mhm.
Very powerful. Now, going a little off the 21 questions, so we might be up to 23, but um, I know you are powerfully involved in um, union work and negotiations and things like that. And then you've also created 𝗧𝗏𝗃. So would love to hear what can you share about those experiences? Because I think that being part of those things, well, being part of the establishment that keeps us all moving forward powerfully in the business, is one thing, and then creating your own place that is a resource and a place where people connect. Would love to hear about both of those things.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and even adding in 𝗏𝗏𝗏, the
Yes,
organization
yes, yes,
I started
absolutely.
with Courtney Taylor. Like, I'm
Mhm.
a I'm a queer voice acting American, and in all three of those areas, I feel that I personally have the feeling like I can't complain about it if I'm not involved in
Mhm.
solutions.
Mhm.
And so whether that is, the involvement that I've had, whether on negotiating committees or voiceover committees, or just, activism outside of them, or the the work that I do with 𝗧𝗏𝗃 to ensure that queer voiceovers have visibility and opportunity and resources, or even just making sure that people get out and vote. It is about encouraging that involvement in your career, your identity, your country, so that you can feel like whether it goes your way or it doesn't, you've had a hand in trying to make change.
Mhm.
There's so many instances of people who are very loud about things but have done little to affect change, or attempt to convince other people to affect change. And I think it's so important that we have that privilege here. Um, we have that ability to be able to speak to each other, to change minds, to inspire, to community build, to organize, and we got to
Mhm.
use it.
Right.
Or,
Use your voices. Yeah.
use it or lose it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic. What would you say you're proudest of in your voiceover career?
I think it is that community building.
Mm-hmm.
I think 𝗏𝗃𝗃 is, though it's outside of and a little tangential from my
Mm,
voiceover career, I'd say that that is what I'm proudest of. If I had to identify something specifically within my voiceover career, it would be the X-Men. Like,
mhm.
being this non-binary superhero and being that representation and being
Yeah.
able to meet people around the country at cons and events and stuff like that and talk about what that representation means. It is it's impactful, it feels important, and it's also fueling for my work where sometimes, like, with everything going on in the country and in our industry, there can be that feeling, those moments of hopelessness that creep in, like, what are we even doing? Are we making, is this having any effect? And when you hear the effect that it is having on fans, on fellow actors, on kids, on, or families, like, that's what makes the work worth it. That's where it's like, nope, we're doing this in little, it might be little ways along the way, but it's happening.
Mm.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful. Very powerful. And on the other side of this, what is your biggest fear or challenge in your voiceover career?
um and I think part of this comes from, and I know you can identify with this as well as somebody who is working to inspire and to help support the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
My fear is less about me. It's more about, will there be a place for the next group of people?
Mm-hmm.
I feel in so many ways I'm on the caboose of the train of a certain level of success and
Mm-hmm.
um uh and career building. And I sometimes struggle, even as I'm running an academy and trying to educate and all of that. There is that fear of, like, God, what is your career going to look like? How affected by the economy, by AI, by identity, by, all of these different aspects, by the remoteness of just doing it individually in small rooms and not really meeting people, that lack of community. How is that going to affect your work? And what positive replacements, or, what's going to fill those gaps? What's going to make those things possible that I can't foresee? So it's, the future is always at once scary and exciting. So but I do think, I do fear a little bit of that.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Um, are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I'm an extra. This is my standard answer now. I am an extrovert with limits, boundaries, and caveats.
That's cool. That sounds like it might have been developed as part of your definition. Is that what I'm inferring here?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, good, good, good. That's really powerful. I love this question because I think we all need to really understand ourselves, and I think is it really requires that each of us, no matter where we are, um, find the middle place.
Hmm.
Because if you're this, you have to be this, and if you're this, you have to be that, and and then we have to
Yeah.
define our parameters as well.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. Um, what would you say your VO motto is?
Um, it's not a succinct one, but it's that everybody in the room is all working to solve a puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I really learned through anime, where me, scriptwriter, the director, the engineer, we're all trying to whittle this piece of wood to fit into the slot just the right way. And when you start looking at all of your relationships in VO that way, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's not about, like, you have to walk into a room and appease the gods or anything like that, but it's also that you're not a diva. Like, we're all on the same page. We're all working towards the same goal. and it really humanizes everybody around you
Hmm.
and makes and can bring the temperature and the nerves down and just make it like we're just trying stuff. Let's try stuff and see what happens,
Hmm.
um and I feel like I say this a lot. Once I was able to start grasping that we're just colleagues that are all on the same page trying to just solve a puzzle, I was able to have deeper, more authentic relationships with the people in the room,
Hmm.
and build those work friendships from an authentic place that wasn't just desperately trying to be seen or anything. Um, and was really able to level up my career because I wasn't so concerned about pleasing somebody as
Hmm.
much as working in collaboration with them.
Yeah. At the dojo, we have a saying that is, there is no they, there's only we.
Hmm.
I think encapsulates all of those beautiful things that you just shared. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
There is no they, there's only we. And we're getting the job done. It's a
Hmm.
job. We're getting the job done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, what is a typical VO day for you, or what's your d practice? I was thinking about, like, we have our daily practice, like a yoga practice, and that daily practice, it as we're training, as we're becoming, is what builds our voiceover practice. So, like a law practice or a medical practice or something like that. So, like, what's a day like? What's a typical day like for you?
I mean, the typical day is that there is no typical day.
That's true.
That's the tricky part. I when I have a bunch of auditions or one or several, it's approaching them all in the same way, reading the script several times, getting a sense of what's going on. Usually the first time I read the script, I will still press record because you
Mhm.
never know what brilliance you're going to get just from that cold read. Like, don't waste it. And and I try to work the balance of, I know it might need a couple takes. I know I might need to do a couple pickups in there to like smooth out things, as I'm listening and trying to shape it and hone it. But I also am always cognizant of like I don't want to beat it to death. I don't want to
Mhm.
like edit the freshness out of it. Um, and if a simple piece of copy like that's no more than 2-3 pages starts to be taking longer than half an hour, then it's like, okay, let's let's step away from this for a second and think about it, because something I feel like I'm not getting something at that point. So yeah, I always like to go with there's a Tina Fey quote from her book about when she's talking about SNL, and she's like, the sketch isn't ready when it's perfect, the sketch is ready at 11:30 when the show starts. So I mean, it's just got to be done.
Right.
You just got to trust that at a certain point it's like it's either ready to ship out or it isn't. And
Hmm.
you know, that's it.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Good. Knowing what you know now, what would you say to yourself at the beginning of your career?
I love when people ask this question because I'm such a time travel nerd that I'm like, I would never speak to myself in the past. It disrupts the whole time flow. Haven't you seen the movie? But that said, if I could tactfully deliver a message, I think
Mhm.
it'd be simple. It would just be, have faith that we'll all be all right.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
You know, there's I if I don't have regrets in the sense that I think that, the good and the bad and the ugly were necessary in order to get to where I'm at right now. So,
Hmm.
and I'm pretty happy with where I'm at right now. So it is what it is. But I do think that there was so much additional gray hair and anxiety that was made from,
In the early years, yeah.
yeah, from the uncertainty of like, I mean, not even the early. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's even now. I remember Rob Paulson said something to the effect of like, even now, even after all of this, he's still, after a job is finished, he's like, I'll never work again. I'm like, that's silly. And now I'm like, I fully identify with that.
It is kind of true because we all have our own arcs, our own, yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
It's very true. It's very true. Yeah. How best to keep in touch or explore more what you're up to? Um,
Sure.
how can we do that?
So my website, 𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃.com, or you can find me on Instagram at 𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗃. You can also find me on Blue Sky, but it's not my I was never a Twittery person, and Blue Sky is just a slightly better version of Twitter, which I like pictures. I like pictures and videos. So you can find me on Instagram. If you're interested in QueerVox, you can find us at QueerVox Academy on Instagram and Blue Sky equally,
Mhm.
or our website, queervox.com. And 𝗏𝗏𝗏. You can find it at 𝗏𝗏𝗏.com or at 𝗏𝗏𝗏 on Instagram and Blue Sky.
Excellent. Well, and then we will be looking forward to having you join us for Ask the Sensei, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll be answering people's questions. So thanks you for answering these, and we'll see you then, and thanks for the inspiration.